Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Nobelia.org, the Way of Impeccability and Moreness Project. Yes, we are going to be joined momentarily by Sabastian, our owner and of the company, who's doing these life-changing programs. He's an author, he's a poet, and so much more. We're excited to have him and his guest here again today. So it's Nobelia.org. If you go to the website there, you can find out more about the project, and we're going to talk more today about moreness, as we always do. And we have our very special guest here once again, Bina Sid, who also works hand in hand with Sil. Say hello, Bina. How are you?
Thank you so much. Hello, how are you, Jill?
I'm good,
I'm good.
sweetheart. Tell us a little about what you do, Bina Sid, who you are.
Okay, so as you guys, I guess already know that, okay, I'm a co-facilitator with the Nobelia.org, and I'm working with him, and I'm part of all the program development and all these things. I'm privileged, I can say that I have this privilege to witness all the progress and everything. The program was already designed by Sil, the courses and the books, but some programs and some courses, I was part of it. I joined him as a post beta tester, and he just made a post, and I got out of nowhere. I said, okay, yes, I'm going to do that. It just started with that I had this kind of like a very fantastic wish I had. I read a book, Sophie's World. And when I was reading that, I was just wishing that, okay, oh my God, how this could happen. That someone just living in this remote forest area, and then someone just chose her and to be his student and started giving philosophy lessons. That was my wish. And I was so amazed by that book. I was not able to completely understand that, but I said, okay, this is the most brilliant thing that could ever happen. And it happens with me when I just respond to that post from Sil. He was not my Facebook friend at the time. I just saw the post and I said, I want to be in. And then he says, okay, yes, these are the procedure and all that. And our first Zoom meeting was 3 hours long, and I was struggling with the connectivity and understanding. But I said, I'm in. I had no idea what philosophy is because I was a system analyst. My whole education was as a system analyst. I was working at, and then I was working at Arts Council Karachi as a production department. I was assisting male characters there for the stage drama, very famous one. And after that, I just joined him. So for me, the law of attraction, people call it law of assumption. It works like wonderfully, absolutely, because I was just hoping for Sophie's World story. It became mine. And I started actually reading philosophy and learning that. And that was the really transformative time for myself. I went through a lot of trauma in my professional career life, because someone at the peak of my career, when I was having like all sort of opportunities from multinationals and everything, and my final project was stolen by my best friend. Very cliche story now, but it happened with me at that age. I was very young, so it was like very traumatic. And it was really the end of the world for me. But for 2 years, I was just trying to find another way to do things. And then universe was putting me in this path. And then I started relearning everything from the scratch once I joined Sil and his programs. And I did Way of Impeccability with him. And then I started the bonus culture. Now you can imagine that, okay, a woman sitting here in Pakistan and lost her career completely as a system analyst, and then as a production department head also, and then have nothing, and then started relearning everything with the concept of philosophy and the new philosophy. That was the really changing a pivotal point in my life. And then after that, I started writing poems, and I started painting, and I did some courses with the Jungian philosophy also. I did some art courses there, and I'm writing books. I don't know. I even don't recognize myself who I was just a few years ago, 5 years ago. Just that.
Wow.
I'm a completely different person since I joined BFM Background. What it did for me, it changes the whole perspective of my worldview. I'm a practicing Muslim, which is like, oh my God, okay, very conventional thing. But I I found value in every religion once I did way of impactability, because I
Yeah.
have knowledge about the Hinduism also, and I'm learning about Christianity and Buddhism and
Yeah.
Zen, and also Judaism. And I found so much value out of every religion once I started way of impactability, and now I'm seeing that in different perspectives. So for
Yeah.
me, everything is so valuable, and I can find value in every religion. And this is what I'm doing. Not only in that, but it improves my relationship with
Mhm.
myself and, of course, with other people and the universe in general. So
Wow.
I always say that, okay, I'm actually like, I'm an ambassador. I can call myself an ambassador of way of impeccability,
You
because it really
are.
transformed my life. Really, it transformed my life in so
Wow.
many ways. I gone through a lot of trauma. I also had some baggage which I was carrying. The childhood trauma I was sharing just before this coming to your Zoom link. I was sharing with Sil that Sil remember that how painful it was for me.
Yeah.
I lost my father at the age of 5, and it was a big, huge trauma, because financially also we have been uh, snatched away everything, and all sort of things, which happens with everyone. Now I don't feel any pain about these things, because they are just normal for me. That yes, I know that, okay, why it was happening, because it was
Hmm.
part of the bigger scheme of the universe just putting me and paving the path which I have to be. So sometimes when we don't understand the things easily, then universe have to do something deliberately for us. And this
Wow.
was happening in my case, and I was not understanding. I was a big fan of ambition. For me, ambition was a very good thing, to have ambition in your life, and I was super ambitious,
Yeah.
and I was doing it, following my life according to that, and it was going wonderful. I was getting all sort of offers and everything. But ambition is not a bad thing, but it is not complete. It can be counterproductive for yourself. So instead of ambition, I got a new concept of aspiration. And I realized that, okay, now what's the difference in it? The difference is that you can be aspire to do anything, having inner peace also, having no conflict with yourself. But
Hmm.
ambition is completely negating your inner self and inner peace, because you don't compromise on anything. You're like, okay, no, I cannot do anything else. So that's a difference between aspiration and ambition for me. And that was also another transformative point in my life, when I realized that, yes, I am giving up my ambitions, and I'm ready to indulge or get into aspirations. And now I am aspired to. And I'm doing so much more than what I was really ambitious about.
Hmm.
This was another transformation in my life. And also that, okay, when people talk about way of impeccability and wholeness, it sounds like that it's a very intellectual thing.
Hmm.
Again, I must say that very clearly, it is not. It transforms life immediately. I have seen that, and I have experienced that with other participants. Like I shared with you in the previous podcast, that how it transformed life. A 60-year-old woman was
Yeah.
struggling with the innuendos of a guy, and she was saying, yes,
We have
yes, you were saying
Sil
something.
coming in. I'm sorry. I'm just letting you know I'm letting him join in right now.
Oh
Hopefully
yes,
he'll
oh
be with us
yes,
shortly. Go ahead. Continue.
yes, yes. So that woman was struggling with that, and when just after one session, one discussion, and she says that I did nothing, I just connect with myself, and that guy was completely different.
Wow.
Our whole interaction was different. Another participant was struggling with her relationship with her mother. 50 years. Hello, Sil.
Hi,
Hello.
Sil. Welcome.
Hello,
How are
hello, hello.
you?
Continue the story. Continue the story.
No, 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 I
Important.
was just sharing about the one of the participants, that she had a very, of course, it's common, but a very unpleasant relationship with her mother.
All right.
And
Yes.
that transformation, just in 2 3 sessions, it was like,
Yes.
wow. And it
Yes.
is transforming life in every session. I can experience that, and I can share with you guys. So I was just filling in time when you
Oh,
were
I
not
love
here.
it.
I was
I
just
love it.
sharing my
You're a
personal
trooper,
story, that
Bean.
She's great. She's
Yeah.
great. Hi,
She's a
Sil.
pro. She's a pro. Bean is such a pro. It's fantastic. And when we started doing the lives, the same thing happened.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't a live, it was with a participant. Bina was just kind of sitting in, and
Okay.
we were doing the sessions, with the participant. And something happened, and I said, "Well, Bina, you're just gonna have to do it." And Bina did, and it was fantastic. So, yeah, she just rose to the occasion. Yeah, it's very cool, very cool. Most cool, most cool. Actually, I do have something I want to share today. We may have a
Yes,
little bit
please.
less time, but we'll go as much as we can. We can maybe carry on next week.
Sure.
We've
Yes.
been talking about Mourner's culture, and like any culture, Mourner's is a culture, and
Mm-hmm.
any culture, the best way to get to know a culture is through its language.
Yep.
Yes, and the language of Mourner's culture is the language of conceptuality. So it's not a language that has its own sound and you've got, names for chair and tree and whatever. It's different. No, this is about conceptions, and it can translate, of course, into any language. Conceptions like impeccability, like inappropriate application of goodness, etc. Right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. It's a language, but it's a language that's getting you to think differently. Yes, because you are focused on conceptions, and conceptions are something, they are connected to other things, unlike terms or definitions or words, which kind of more isolated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So conception is very much connected, and when you have them all, you get to see the bigger, greater whole.
Yeah.
And this language of conceptionality, of course, the particular conceptions are connected to mourners and to way of impeccability and things like that, right? I mean, impeccability, of course, a conception, appropriateness, a conception. Now, though, if you looking to understand the culture, like take in Japanese, right, and you want to understand, you're starting to wanting to know the culture, you can pick something, let's say
Okay.
ikigai, right? People
Mm-hmm.
have heard about ikigai, they know it, but through that one term, you get to know more, right? And you get to connect to the culture. And I have such a term that I wish to share today, such a conception. And that is the conception transition, capital T, transition. Yes. And now you say, well, what do you mean by transition here? I mean, okay, I know this word, I'm familiar with this word, but what do we mean here in mourners culture with this term transition? And that's what I want to share today. Right. So first of all, the first heading that I have, it's actually a little mini program that I have in transition, right? Called transition. But
Yep.
I'm just going to share it, because when you actually do the program, there's a doing that's the participant does all sorts
Okay.
of different, and that changes how the participant then integrates
Ah.
this new knowledge. And that's very important. Those doings are actually very, very important, because we can hear stuff, but that's just hearing it, and it sort of goes onto your database. But when you do in that particular way that the programs
Yeah.
are set up to do, the point of those doings is for the participant to make it their own.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make it your own, you're connecting to, oh, this makes sense to me. When it makes sense to you, that's when you make it your own, right? You put it in your own words, and that's very key. But that doesn't mean that I can't share the broaderness, right? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful conceptions in here and understandings that really make a difference. So transition is shifting. Yeah. Things change. That's reality. That's the opening quote. I like to put quotes in my programs because quotes connect us to the ineffable. Things change. That's reality. So what we mean by transition is an acknowledgement of reality. Also, acceptance of alternate possibilities. Yes,
No.
this is very important. This is very important. But transition here means transitioning is a deliberate shifting of our relationship. Yeah. Now, the relationship, this can be with things, with time, with our past, with others, with the situation, circumstances, doesn't matter, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
a deliberate shifting. That's very, very key. And that transition, the idea is what we are transitioning changes. Right? So when we are transitioning a relationship, we are going to change the nature of the relationship itself.
Okay.
And I'm going to speak specifically in the beginning about the transitioning when it comes to relationship. Now, This can apply to a relationship with a job or with a partner, right? So in a traditional relationship, but it could be a job relationship too, because that's also a relationship, right? And a transition, it implies a move or a movement over time, right? So it's like a season. Seasons are transitions, right? All seasons, there's in between the seasons, there are transitions, and each season is a transition between the seasons that come before and after, right?
Okay.
But when we understand transitions via seasons, we say, wow, that's a very nice, smooth transition. It's not like we have winter, 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 and then all of a sudden one day it ends and boom, we've got summer, right? I mean, that would be quite disruptive. Yes, I mean, our bodies take a while to adjust and all this, right? Actually, seasonal change affects quite a lot of people. They get really put out by seasonal change, and it takes them a while to change. And it's like when you're flying, right? A jet lag, your body gets out of sorts. So we don't have a quick enough time to adjust to that change. So we need to have a bit of time. But now, right, to transition means we have changed, right? How we perceive matters.
Yep.
That's the key, right? So a transition is you're looking at something and then you change how you view it, and then you get to a different view, right? This is very key. So we transition to a full and complete view, one of our own choosing. We deliberately extract the good, the lessons, the realizations of our own goodness and moreness. So this is where it connects to moreness culture, that we are going to connect to that moreness. We are going to transition in a way that works for us, that's beneficial to us, right? And transition, it's also a way in how we make peace with the past and how we make peace with change. That's the most key point to transition, how we are making peace with change, so that we are going to change in a peaceful, non-stressful, easy way, right?
Yeah.
And it's very key. And things change. That's reality.
It's true.
Acknowledgement of reality, right? It's refusing to acknowledge change is a prime cause of misery and suffering. All right. So now, think of your girlfriends or your boyfriends, right? Or boyfriends, your male friends, right?
Yes, got it.
Yeah. Think of them and think of relationships they've been in, and think when change comes, yes, how they resist this change of the relationship. Yes, they deny it, they get stressed, they get bothered, they start making excuses, they want to find fault, they want to find blame, they feel guilty, whatever, right? All sorts of stuff. All of that is a refusal to acknowledge change. Yes, that's the reality of the change. Bottom line.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and you're refusing to accept it. It's like, come on, really, right? If we know something is coming and refuse to acknowledge it's coming, is that sensible?
Yeah.
No. So you already know what's going to come. I'll tell you a quick little story here because we're short on time.
Sure.
My first serious relationship that I had, it wasn't serious in like marriage seriousness, but it was serious in terms of the physical interacting in this, and started right before final exams at school. And there's a story to how it started, but that's for another time. And so we going along and we had fun. Her name was Avril, wonderful, very sophisticated girl. Anyway, so we're on the beach after a couple of months of having fun, and she says to me, "You're too much for me." Just like that. You're too much for me.
Too much. Oh.
That's it. She says, "You are too much for me." Just like that. Now, I was already in the habit then of thinking things through and perspective shifting and paying attention and the implications. I processed all the implications in that moment. And right there, our relationship changed. Completely. Because that's the implication, right? No more needed to be said. No more needed to be said. Then, of course, our relationship changes as is appropriate relative to what she's saying. Now, I'm specifically avoiding using certain language here, and you're going to see that, right? So as the months go by, and I'm enthralled with the magic, the moreness of this one short sentence that she says to me, right? I'm enthralled at the sophistication of it, and just the brilliance, the awesomeness, the capital G gift that I've from the universe. And I say, now, of course, your friends and family and everybody, oh, what's going on with you and Avril? And I can't say the usual words.
Wow.
I have no word to describe what happened. I have no term. Yes. And now we come to this next point in the program here, right? And that is attention to precise language. Now, me, it's not just that I like precise language. It's my deep innate honesty. I can't say the usual word or words that said because they weren't accurate. Yes, I couldn't say that. I couldn't say we'd broken up. I couldn't say our relationship had ended because we were still friends. I could, connect to her anytime. Yes, we didn't interact a lot, but as appropriate. But I could have if I wanted to. So I couldn't say the relationship ended or there was a breakup or a split or a separation or anything like that. I couldn't say any of those words. And that's where I came to this concept of transition. I was forced into it because I had to find something to say what had happened. And that's we had just transitioned right there in that moment on the beach when she said that. I don't remember any conversation after that. I doubt if we were completely silent, we probably had, packing up and, let me help you with that, that kind of stuff. But that was it. There was no further interaction. It was just this beautiful, magical, just joyful, peaceful, fantastically awesome mournous transition. It was all mournous, right? And to this day, I've never had a breakup, by the way. Not one. My whole life. Can you believe it?
I love it. See?
But it started with that. It was a transition. It was a transition. And I realized the power of this to say, because I heard all my friends and, not just my friends, but, from my mother and her friends and, all the generations, divorce. When my parents got divorced, oh my God, this was like the real end of the world. At that time, divorce was so sensitive that you could not say divorce in polite society, right? You couldn't say it out loud. Like, oh, my parents are they're getting divorced. You had to whisper it. It was ridiculous. But how many relationships transition? Not many, but there are some. There are some. We just don't notice them. And we don't notice them and they don't stay with us because we don't have the precise language to describe what happens. Have you had some friends who just, had a relationship and things changed and it's like all good and then they had another relationship?
Yeah, it's true.
Have you had that?
Yes.
Have you had that?
Yes.
Or of people? We know of it, right? But somehow in our brain, we don't think that relationships can end in other way except in breakup or splits or divorce or separation or whatever, right? Because that's the only language we have available. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? So we can't conceive of an alternative because we don't have a conception that is appropriate.
Got it. Well, unfortunately, we are almost out of time. We got to go. Sorry.
Next week we continue.
Thank you so much. How do we contact you?
Nobelia.org/connect.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Pleasure having you.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.